of my life to reach the top of the world.
From the very first day at school, teach your child the lesson of saving. Open a Sisu Udana account with People's Bank. Initial deposit given by the bank. Higher interest with more gifts and benefits. Also, my activity organizers for all kids starting grade 1. Sisu Udana from People's Bank. Give your child the strength to succeed.
In a few moments, the news.
Sisu Udana from People's Bank. Give your child the strength to succeed.
This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
(6:15 p.m.) This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Dulbin Samarasinghe and read by Ramesh Peris. First, the headlines. The President instructs to ensure international confidence in ports. A group of ambassadors and high commissioners meet the President. Sri Lanka Electricity Amendment Draft Bill passed by a majority of votes in Parliament. It is not mandatory to wear face masks from tomorrow. The UN calls for over $47 million for life-saving assistance to Sri Lanka. MP Johnston Fernando surrenders to the Colombo Fort Magistrate. In news overseas, the US House passes gun bill doomed to fail in Senate. In sports, Olympians sue FBI for $1 billion over Larry Nassar investigation. Now the local news in detail. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says the international confidence in Sri Lanka ports should be ensured by providing efficient service using technology. The President expressed these views during a progress review meeting of the Ministry of Ports, Naval and Aviation Services this morning at the President's house. The President pointed out that Colombo Harbour conducts operations with all main global shipping lines and the staff with the management should safeguard it by working with commitment. It has been revealed that malpractices occur when auctioning goods imported illegally and have been retained at the harbour. The President pointed out by selling those goods through state organizations such as SATUSA and Building Materials Corporation, frauds can be prevented and the state can earn an income. The President instructed the officials to look into the possibility of establishing a training unit to young employees targeting foreign employment. Meanwhile, the President's media division said diplomats and high commissioners of Middle East, China and India met the President recently. The President has briefed them about the present economic, social and political situation in the country and requested their support to solve the prevailing situation. The President also expressed his appreciation for them to the support already given by those countries. Sri Lanka Electricity Amendment Draft Bill was passed by a majority of 84 votes in Parliament today. 120 members voted in favour while 36 voted against the draft bill. 13 members who became independent abstained from voting. Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena has announced wearing face masks indoors and outdoors will not be mandatory from tomorrow. However, he said it is preferable that people who are suffering from respiratory disorders wear a face mask. This direction does not prevent people from wearing face masks as per their wish. MP Johnston Fernando surrendered to the Colombo Fort Magistrate Thilina Gamage this evening in compliance with the order issued by the Court of Appeal. The parliamentarian made an appearance at the magistrate's residence in Maharagama. Earlier today, the Appeals Court ordered the former minister to surrender before 8 p.m. today as a warrant has been issued for his arrest. The directive came after taking into consideration a writ application filed by the former minister seeking a court order preventing his arrest. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Sisu Udana from People's Bank. Give your child the strength to succeed.
Colombo District Court issued an enjoining order today preventing the Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union members from disrupting the continuous supply of electricity to the public by engaging in trade union actions. The order was issued by Colombo District Judge Purnima Parnagama after taking into account a complaint lodged by the Ceylon Electricity Board. The family of a Sri Lankan woman who died while in custody at an immigration center in central Japan last year demanded an apology from the Japanese government yesterday in the damages suit against the state. The family of Ratnayaka Liyanage Vishma Sandamali alleged that she was illegally detained and died due to a lack of necessary medical care. They filed the lawsuit in March seeking $1.17 million in damages. 8 orders under the Sri Lanka Electricity Amendment Draft Bill and Mineral Resources Bill were taken up for debate in Parliament today. Taking part in the debate, Minister Ramesh Pathirana said renewable energy sources should be pursued to generate electricity at a lower cost. He pointed out that it will cost less than 20 rupees to produce a unit of electricity if renewable energy sources are used. Opposition leader Ajit Premadasa said electricity projects of more than 10 megawatts should be under competitive bidding. He said they would not stand by diesel, coal and thermal power plant mafia. He further said that they are against selling the country's solar and wind power generation at low prices to foreign companies. MP Gamini Lukuge said a mafia is in operation against renewable energy projects. MP Nalin Bandara said serious issues can arise in future by giving manna cost to companies such as Adani Group to generate electricity. Taking part in the debate in Parliament today, MP Vijitha Herat said no one will oppose to promote renewable energy sources. However, he said it is not suitable to abolish tender process for such projects. MP Vimal Veerapansa said shortcomings in the tender procedures when implementing electricity projects should be rectified. Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekhara said today Russia has not made a proposal to provide fuel to Sri Lanka with a discount of 35% as claimed by the opposition MPs. He told Parliament that he met Russian ambassador and discussed the matter and that he never made such a proposal. He said this while responding to a question raised by opposition MP Vasudeva Nanakara as to why the government was not purchasing fuel from Russia despite it had offered to provide fuel at a discount price of 35%. And that concludes local news.
From the very first day at school, teach your child the lesson of saving. Open a Sisudana account with People's Bank. My activity organizers for all kids starting grade 1.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to the main news story. The United Nations team in Sri Lanka and non-governmental organizations launched a joint humanitarian needs and priorities plan today. The agency called for $47.2 million to provide life-saving assistance to 1.7 million people worst hit by the economic crisis over a 4-month period from June to September. This directly responds to the government of Sri Lanka's request for a United Nations-backed multi-sectoral international assistance to respond to the most urgent needs arising from the recent crisis. And that came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
In Watch Night, the National Transport Commission Director General Nilan Mirando urged the public to notify the Commission about the incidents where bus conductors charge higher bus fares to the 1955 hotline immediately. He said that the Commission has received a number of complaints regarding charging higher bus fares from the passengers with the revision of bus fares. That came to you in Watch Night. A bulletin of world news is coming up. First, the headlines of the world news. The US House passes gun bill doomed to fail in Senate. New Zealand plans to tax cow and sheep burps. Microplastics found in fresh Antarctic snow. Now the world news in detail. The US House of Representatives has voted through a series of measures regulating the sale of guns, but which are destined to fail in the Senate. The new measures would bar sales of semi-automatic weapons to people under 21 and ban large-capacity magazines. But Republican opposition in the Senate means the bill has little chance of entering law, despite renewed focus on gun control in the wake of a series of mass shootings in the US. It would make it the first nation to charge farmers for the methane emissions from the animals they keep. New Zealand is home to just over 5 million people, along with around 10 million cattle and 26 million sheep. Almost half the country's total greenhouse gas emissions come from agriculture, mainly methane. However, agricultural emissions have previously not been included in New Zealand's emissions trading scheme. Scientists have for the first time found microplastics in freshly fallen Antarctic snow. Researchers from the University of Canterbury in New Zealand collected samples from 19 sites in Antarctica, and each contained tiny plastic fragments. Microplastics stem from the erosion of plastic materials and are smaller than a grain of rice, sometimes even invisible to the naked eye. To end the world news, headlines once again. The US House passes gun bills doomed to fail in Senate. New Zealand plans to tax cow and sheep burps. And microplastics found in fresh Antarctic snow. And that concludes world news. Moving on to development news. Sri Lanka Agripreneurs Forum says it is necessary to ensure whatever natural or organic fertilizers produced conform to acceptable standards in order that they perform as claimed. They said the Fertilizer Secretariat alone may not be able to do this as a nationwide exercise, and therefore suitable state agencies must be enrolled to perform the function. They said such certification should be made mandatory. And that was development news.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank, we present your future.
Moving on to sports news. Women who say that they were sexually assaulted by a disgraced U.S. national gymnastics team doctor plan to sue the FBI for $1 billion. Claimants say the FBI mishandled credible complaints of sexual assault by Larry Nassar. They include gymnastics gold medalist Simone Biles, Ali Raisman and Michaela Maroney. Nassar is serving up to 175 years in prison for molesting gymnasts. The agency's own watchdog found the FBI disregarded allegations about Nassar and made early errors in its investigation. The majority of claimants in these suits say Nassar assaulted them after his abuse was reported to the FBI in 2015. And that came to you in sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, Colombo Stock Exchange was recently certified by a Great Place to Work. This certification was obtained on CSE's very first attempt, and it is a true testament to the foundation on which the organization has been built on over the years. Commenting on the certification, Chief Executive Officer of the CSE, Rajiva Bandaranaike, said, "Great Place to Work certainly adds value to CSE's brand identity." And that was business news.
Business news sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
In economic news, the local export sector reiterated the need for Sri Lanka to have robust policies to continue its operations in the local market and sustain in the global markets. NCE Secretary-General and Chief Executive Officer Shiham Mareka, in a statement on behalf of the export community, said Sri Lanka simply cannot allow this vital sector to collapse due to the prevailing economic crisis. And that was economic news. The weather report is coming up. Moving on to the weather report. The Met Department says showers will occur at times in the Sabaragamuwa province and in Kandy, Nuwara Eliya and Kalutara districts. Several spells of showers will occur in the northern western part and in Gampaha, Colombo, Galle and Matara districts. Fairly strong winds, about 40 km per hour, can be expected at times in the northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in Trincomalee and Hambantota districts. And that was the weather report. And to end this news broadcast, a recap of the main news headlines. The President instructs to ensure international confidence in ports. A group of ambassadors and high commissioners meet the President. Sri Lanka Electricity Amendment Draft Bill passed by a majority of votes in Parliament. It is not mandatory to wear face masks from tomorrow. The UN calls for over $47 million for life-saving assistance to Sri Lanka. MP Johnson Fernando surrenders to the Colombo Fort Magistrate. In news overseas, the US House passes gun bill doomed to fail in Senate. In sports, Olympians sue FBI for $1 billion over Larry Nassar investigation. And with that, we conclude this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.